Konnichiwa, I'm Queen Kongsan and I'm here again with another cooking video. Today I'm going to be doing a recipe from Just One Cookbook, except I'm having the recipe so that I can cook it for myself because I only have, she calls for a pound of chicken thighs and I only have like two. So I'm just going to go ahead and half the recipe. I will have it linked below so you can go ahead and follow along. Now, her recipe calls for a half cup of soy sauce or shoyu, half cup of mirin, fourth cup of sake, fourth cup of water, and 2 teaspoons of packed brown sugar. Now, I thought I had mirin, but I did not. Now, mirin is, I grew up with it just like it's just a liquid sugar substitute, essentially. I don't really want to use like corn syrup or anything like that. Plus, I don't really have that. So, her recipe calls for sake and a sugar mixture. I kind of used it. Sorry, Nami. But I went ahead and put a little more brown sugar in mine just so that it makes up for that sweetness that it lacks. And I also put a little bit too much sake inside, so I'm sure it'll all even out eventually. It's just for me anyway, so follow Nami's recipe. Don't go broke like me, okay? Now, when I measure recipes out, I like to just do it all in 1 cup because it's easier. So because I only used a fourth of a cup of soy sauce instead of half, I just measure accordingly, right? So just eyeball it as best you can. Thankfully, this is not baking because do not do this with baking because it will mess up your recipe. Now, she calls for chicken thighs that have been left out at room temperature, so I'm going to be chopping those up. You do want, it's essentially an easy recipe. I already have, let's see if I can do this. Nope. My water skewers, or my water skewers, my skewers in water. Now, there were some skewers that looked kind of sketchy and then had bad reviews, so I am actually using apple sticks. So we'll see how that turns out. Really, I should be saving the world and using metal skewers, but those have not come in yet, so I apologize. So those have been soaking. You want them to soak for at least 30 minutes. I've kind of had them in for an hour, which may or may not bite me in the butt. We'll see. The recipe is really easy though. So once you have the sauce and the skewers going, all you need is chicken and green onions or scallions. Now, the main part of this dish is, or what's going to get skewered is the lovely like white green part. We are going to chop off one of these puppies to put into the sauce to reduce. One other thing that I want you guys to keep in mind, I am notorious for kind of glancing over a recipe and then looking at it as I go, which is not the best way to do it. This one, we are going to be using the broiler, so my oven, to finish off the recipe instead of a barbecue, which is great because my apartment doesn't allow those. And with quarantine, I can't exactly go out there and barbecue it myself. So you're going to be using your broiler. When you are brushing the tare or the sauce onto the chicken, make sure that you have a reserve reduced sauce on the side because chicken, right, salmonella, you don't want to be like, here's some yakitori, and then you give salmonella to your kids. That would be bad. Don't be that person. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on reducing the sauce and putting one of these green onions, short of, you know, the good stuff that we're going to be skewering, into a pan to reduce to about half. You'll notice kind of the liquid reducing down and it should get a little bit more syrupy because of the amount of sugar in it anyway. So I will pause and we will get right back to it. All right, so while the sauce is going ahead and reducing, I just went ahead and cut off the tops of the scallions or the green onions. So I have all of that left. Now these are great and they freeze really well. So growing up, my mom would just kind of just dice these up while they're still fresh and then stick them in a container so that whenever you need green scallions, you would just have to go in and pick out some or defrost the whole thing and use it. So I'm going to go ahead and save this for the side so that I can go ahead and freeze those later. Now in Nami's recipe, she says, well, let me just cut off the ends first. Now, the beauty of green onions, if you did not already know this, is when you keep them kind of whole with their roots, you can just stick this in water, kind of like I have right here. Okay, these I've had for maybe like a month now, and then I just change out the water about every week or so. But they will constantly keep growing. Now, those look a little sad. They're a lot thinner than these green onions, but same deal. So if I were to plant them, I would have green onions 24/7, but because of the place I live, it's a little hard to grow them outside because it's not warm year-round, so there's that. Anyway, all right, so Nami's recipe calls for us to cut the green onions to about 1 inch. We're going to need a lot of these because we're going to be alternating between the chicken and the green onion. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of give these guys a choppy. Okay, that is obviously not the official word, but we'll just go with it. I can hear my sauce bubbling, which is great. Now, typically for the sauce, I would have tasted it, but seeing as I am allergic to alcohol, I don't want to have an episode, especially right now, so let's not be that person. Let me go ahead and take this off. Okay, so green onions too, you have to be careful because you'll have some soot on it like that, so I'm just gonna rinse that off behind you. Call that one good. Chicken thighs are my newfound favorite. Like, okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and kind of be a biter off of Christy Teigen really quickly, but I love Christy Teigen. She is also great. I will probably make a recipe or two of hers at some point, but her favorite go-to is chicken thighs just because they hold seasoning really well. It is really fatty, so there is that, but I use the air fryer a lot, so most of that fat, in my mind at least, goes ahead and drips off. So anyway, I really like using chicken thighs, but I'm gonna go ahead and turn the sauce down to medium. I'll kind of know when it's ready just because I won't really smell the sake and it'll look like less. Okay, so chicken thighs, the only thing is that it is obviously like really fatty and the shape of it is kind of weird. Okay, so before I get started, what I'm going to go ahead and do first is just going to go ahead and cut off some of this extra fat. Just because we're not air frying it, so there's like that aspect. Now, when you're cutting off chicken fat, a good kind of like cheat, my knife is not sharp enough, is to pull on the fat and then kind of lightly hack away at it with your knife. Obviously, be careful when you're doing this. The back, I'm gonna just kind of leave intact. There's only maybe like some pockets of, not cartilage, but just like tougher tissue that I'm gonna take out. Connective tissue, there we go, I can words. Okay, so you see how that's kind of, it's a little gross anyway. Please be careful with your knife while you're doing this. Okay, obviously don't cut yourself. Extra little piece of fat there. I see another piece of cartilage there. You can tell that it's cartilage because it looks like tubing, which I know sounds disgusting, but you know. Okay, so that one I would say is good. I do my best to try and buy the organic chicken as much as possible. It does taste better, in my opinion. And it has less, I don't know. I just feel better about eating that. Obviously, the choice is yours, so there's that. So I try not to cut myself. Okay, there's one more pocket of fat, and then I'm going to go ahead and start cutting this up. So similarly to our scallions or a green onion, we're going to go ahead and cut the chicken into little bite-sized pieces. You want to make sure, so kind of like that, right? Roughly the same size. I'm just going to go ahead and cut that in half again. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and cut these into small bite size so that they can fit on our skewer. And the beauty of this is, one, we're just using our broiler. Two, it's literally just, you know, the staples in a Japanese house. So if you don't have the staples, then just buy the staples and you'll be able to make an infinite amount of just amazing dishes that are so simple to make. The trifecta is always, at least in my mind, soy sauce, mirin, and sake. So I'm very sad that I ran out of mirin somehow. I'm gonna go have to brave the grocery store for that, but totally worth it. I love keeping that in stock for sukiyaki, which is like my favorite thing to make during the winter because it is healthy. It's just one pot. You just kind of dump it all into one pot and then cook. And then it's done and delicious. So it's really simple. I'm probably gonna do Nami sukiyaki recipe later on this year. Love you, Nami. Anyway, okay, and we are done with the chicken pieces. So you'll notice that they are kind of fatty, but again, like that's okay. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and wash my hands, and yeah, we will keep going. Okay, so our sauce is done. Easy way to check is if it doesn't smell like alcohol anymore, you're good. Okay, if you have a hard time figuring out if it's been reduced or not. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab my trusty soaked stick. Nami says to fold the chicken in half. Ooh, this is gonna be a little tricky. Perhaps I made them too thin. Fold the chicken in half and puncture. Notice I'm kind of bracing my fingers on either side of it. And then we're gonna alternate chicken and scallion. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and push that down. Now she said you should have about 6, maybe I'm just gonna skewer this actually, just the way it is. She said you should have about 4 pieces of chicken. I'm gonna have to push this down further. Please don't break. Okay. Obviously I'm a novice. You're learning with me, which is fun. I've been wanting to make this recipe since forever though, so thank you. And seeing as we can't really safely go anywhere unless, you know, you're a daredevil and live life a little dangerously, I visit different countries with food because why not? Okay, so that is, wow, I do not, I just lost a green onion. Okay, let's try that again. So skewering on, ta-da! This does not look like the fancy Japanese restaurant quality, but I will take it because it is a hell of a lot cheaper to do at home. I'm leaving a little bit of space so it's not totally like pushed up against each other. But yep, that is one yakitori stick done. Pre-yaki, I should say. I don't have a lot of chicken here and it's just for me, so I'm probably only gonna make about 4, maybe 5 sticks of these, probably less. Anyway, so go ahead and repeat that and then we will get you caught up on the next step. Whew. All right, so little tip, she was right. So when you are skewering, I'm not gonna pick it up because there's like chicken juice in that, but while you're skewering, obviously I was kind of showing you how to do it, but if you have the skewer kind of in your hand and against your cutting board, it's easier to kind of use your cutting board to get the meat and the scallion onto the skewer instead. Would have saved me a lot of splinters as a kid. I'm just gonna throw that out there, okay? So Um, don't skewer it like I was. Okay, have your stick kind of at an she said a 45-degree angle, which is very technical. Anyway, that's just kind of how I'm gonna show you how to do it. Anyway, so I have kind of ghetto rigged, which is really like the story of my life. A baking sheet that is covered in tin foil. You kind of want to get the edges as much as you can. I don't have the crazy, super awesome tin foil, so it doesn't totally cover the width, but it does cover kind of the edges because the tare and the oil and the fat and whatever from the chicken is going to drip off, obviously. Okay. On a cookie sheet, oh, well, cookie sheet with a cooling rack on top of it. Okay, if you have this kind of setup already, good job. I do not have as much money as you, but congratulations. Okay, I went ahead and brushed the cooling rack with a little bit of canola oil. You don't want to use seasoned oil because obviously the flavors in this are very simple, right? Just chicken and scallion. I am currently waiting for my broiler to get hot on high. When you put anything in the broiler, you obviously want to put it at the top because that's where all the heat is. So unlike, had to learn this a long time ago. So unlike a regular oven situation, okay, when you're baking cookies, the heat in the oven when you're baking comes from the bottom. That's why the coil on the bottom starts heating up. Okay, it is the opposite when you're broiling, but that's also why broiling is slightly more dangerous because the heat is more intense usually. So if you're making a casserole and you want to get that crispy, bubbly effect on like whatever cheese you put on top of it or whatever, like that crunch, usually they say like, bake it and then put it up on the higher shelf and then broil it for a couple minutes. You have to keep an eye on it, otherwise things will burn and that's bad. So in the recipe, I have half of the tare or the sauce still in the pan that has cooled down, and then I have a little bit reserved for the finishing just because I don't want it to be tainted with, raw chicken flavors. I only have one like silicone brush, so I'm going to be washing that before I put the final tare on. But we don't want to put the sauce on it just yet because it'll burn, right? The whole point for this, the first 6 minutes that it's going to be in the broiler, is for it to cook. Now, the pieces of chicken and the scallion are so small. I mean, it's 6 minutes should be enough. You just want to make sure that your broiler is hot first before you put these puppies in. After 6 minutes, I'm going to go ahead and take them off and then brush the tare on both sides and then put it back in. I'm probably going to do an extra tare like swipe because I like it like borderline burnt slash crunchy, which may come to bite me in the butt, but we'll see. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and put these babies in and brush them up. And the next time I see you, they should be done. So the yakitori sticks are done. I am not going to put it in again because I almost started a small fire. One of the sticks actually broke off. That's the stick. And this is why you really want to let them soak for at least 30 minutes because it is going to burn. Case in point. Okay. The whole stick is black. And my apartment now smells like I started a fire, but did not. Anyway, I had failed to mention, after the initial 6 minutes, you're gonna brush both sides with the sauce and leave it in for about another 3 to 4 minutes. As you can see, I'm not gonna touch these because I'm a big wimp, but they look fabulous. I am super excited. But yeah, thank you very much, Nami, for all of your blogs and for doing all of the testing so that people like me, whose mothers did not teach them how to cook, have a shot at life. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and enjoy these, and I will see y'all later. Peace.